The Seventh Hokage is dead and the Leaf Village has been wiped off the map. You might think it was a regular enemy attack, but the black fire came from deep inside the earth. The ground split open and swallowed everything you know. There is just no way to understand how the perfect defense failed so fast. The destruction happened in the blink of an eye, and nothing was left behind to tell the tale. We need to rewind 30 minutes in time for you to understand this bloodbath. The village was having a completely normal morning. Boruto was training with his master under a calm sun, but then the birds stopped singing. The air grew heavy, and the sky darkened without a single cloud. Sasuke was the first to sense the danger because his left eye started bleeding out of nowhere. He saw no enemies approaching on the horizon, and that threw him into total panic. A legendary Uchiha trembling with fear is something you never thought you would see. Then a thudding rumble ripped through the foundations of the earth beneath their feet, and the nightmare truly began. You need to visualize the brutal shock Boruto felt as the cracks swallowed the Hokage monument in seconds. A bizarre and ruthless tremor lifted entire buildings into the air and reduced them to dust instantly. The enemy did not come from outer space or some distant dimension. He was sleeping right under Konoha since the era of the Sage of Six Paths. The biggest irony you will see here is that the barrier protecting the village was exactly what fed this monster. A forgotten Otsutsuki consumed the chakra of the Leaf generations for decades, until he reached his perfect form. And when he ripped through the asphalt and stared at the sun, you felt true terror. His appearance was grotesque and covered in dead roots from the divine tree. I will show you in just a moment how Sasuke tried to react to this, but the power gap was completely humiliating. The Otsutsuki did not use any complex jutsu or famous technique against them. He just raised a finger, and a wave of pressure wiped out the lives of almost every ninja there. The silence left in the ruins was way more terrifying than the actual explosions of the attack. Boruto activated his karma on pure survival reflex and tried to protect the nearby citizens from the impact, but the enemy's speed broke all logic, and he was already behind the hero's back before any reaction. Sasuke had to burn his own body with Amaterasu to create a wall of fire and save his student. The heat melted the stones and gave them a single second to breathe. You can see the absolute despair in Sasuke's eyes because he knows this fight cannot be won by normal means. He looks at the wounded Boruto and makes a terrible decision that will change the history of the ninja world forever. The master draws his sword and points the blade not at the enemy, but at his own face. The shock on Boruto's face is the exact same confusion you are feeling right now. The grotesque sound of metal tearing through the Uchiha's flesh echoes in the ruins and freezes your heart with fear. The Otsutsuki advances, ripping through the black fire with his bare hands and thirsty for fresh blood. You are not ready to see what Sasuke just ripped from his own body without hesitating, because the only way to save the hero involves the greatest sacrifice a master has ever made in the entire history of mankind. The Otsutsuki breaks through the wall of black flames, and the impact hurls Boruto deep into the ruins. The monster did not get a single scratch, because his skin absorbs any ninjutsu that touches his body. You feel chills down your spine when you realize that brute force is the only way out. But Sasuke no longer has his left arm, and now his face is covered in dark blood. Despair takes over the scene, and death feels like the only certainty right now. The creature charges at an absurd speed and lands a devastating kick right on the master's chest. The Uchiha's bones snap loudly, and he spits blood as he is thrown against a mountain of rubble. You watch Boruto scream in agony because his master is being slaughtered like a rag doll. Then the boy tries to use a Rasengan, but the villain just laughs and crushes the attack with one hand. Hope completely vanishes because regular attacks are a useless joke against this nightmare. The villain lifts Boruto by the neck and starts choking the life out of the hero without a shred of mercy. The young boy's breathing fails, and his vision starts going black incredibly fast. You suffer right along with him because being powerless against a god is the worst feeling in the world, but Sasuke refuses to die and rises from the stones, with a supernatural fury burning in his soul. He concentrates all his remaining life energy into his sword and charges for one final suicidal strike. The Uchiha's blade flashes with a dark lightning and cuts through the air straight toward the monster's arm. The Otsutsuki drops Boruto to the ground and blocks the sword with his own forearm, and the collision makes the ground cave in. The shockwave is so violent that it sweeps away the ashes of the destroyed village and blinds your sight for a moment. You understand now that Sasuke is burning his own spirit to keep that attack active, and every single second of this clash cost years of the last Konoha hero's life. The monster smiles diabolically because he notices the human is at the absolute limit of his physical strength. He starts forcing his arm against the sword, and the Uchiha's legendary blade begins to crack down the middle. You cannot believe what your eyes are seeing because the unbreakable weapon is about to turn to dust. But Sasuke does not back down a single inch, and forces even more of his lightning chakra into the metal. The master's scream of pain rips through the silence because his human body is entering total collapse. The sword finally shatters into 1,000 pieces, and the villain pierces Sasuke's chest with his bare hand. Time seems to freeze for you as the warm blood pours down the merciless enemy's pale arm. Boruto watches this scene paralyzed on the ground, and the young ninja's mind completely breaks in half. You feel a lump in your throat because the greatest prodigy of the Uchiha clan was defeated in such a cruel way. But the master smiles and you realize that he planned this exact moment of absurd sacrifice. The villain's hand is trapped inside Sasuke's chest and the monster cannot back away in time. The Uchiha uses his only hand to grab the Otsutsuki's neck, and a bizarre seal appears on the ground. You stand frozen because you discover that Sasuke turned his own heart into an explosive trap. The detonation is silent and creates a sphere of energy that corrodes the matter of everything inside it. The master used his own looming death to create the only possible opening in this hellish war. The villain screams in pain for the very first time and tears his hand out of the master's chest in pure desperation. The trap melted half of the monster's face and instantly destroyed his ability to absorb chakra. You breathe a sigh of relief for a second because the suicide attack finally dealt real damage to the threat, but Sasuke's body drops to the cold ground, and the massive hole shows that his end has come. He uses the last milliseconds of his consciousness to crawl over to Boruto, who is in total shock. The hero hugs his master's bloody body and cries like a child who lost everything in life. You feel the crushing weight of sadness because Boruto begs Sasuke not to close his eyes. But the Uchiha coughs up more blood and opens his dirty hand to reveal what he ripped out of himself. The Supreme Rinnegan is right there, intact and pulsing with an energy that refuses to fade into the dark. And Sasuke speaks his last words, ordering the hero to accept that cursed burden right now. The mutilated Otsutsuki stands up from the ruins and roars with a fury that makes the sky turn dark once again. He prepares a massive energy attack that will disintegrate Boruto and the master's body in an instant. You have no time to cry, because the end of the world is falling from the sky in the form of pure light. Boruto looks at the divine eye in his master's hand and makes the most gruesome decision of his life, and he raises his own kunai and drives the blade straight into his own right eye without a second thought. Blood splatters across the ruins, and Boruto's scream of pain rips through the dark Konoha sky. You feel his agony because tearing out your own eye is a madness no one would ever dare to try. But the boy shoves the Supreme Rinnegan inside the bleeding socket, and a purple energy explodes from his body. The Otsutsuki's energy attack comes down like a meteor, but the hero's new strength creates an impenetrable shield. The dust settles, and you realize the tables have turned in a completely terrifying way. The villain steps back 3 paces and stares at the boy with a fear he has never felt before. The 6 Magatama of Sasuke's eye begin to spin in Boruto's socket, and the power there is completely raw. You see the karma on his right arm react, and the blue marks start burning a dark shade. The fusion of the Otsutsuki clan's power with the supreme legacy of the Uchihas creates an anomaly never seen before, and the ground around them begins to float because gravity simply stopped working right there. Boruto says nothing and just walks toward the monster with an expression of pure coldness. The villain tries to attack with absurd speed, but the hero moves using the Divine Eye's teleportation. You blink, and the boy is already behind the enemy's back, landing a punch that breaks the sound barrier. The impact slams the Otsutsuki into the ground and opens a giant crater that makes the earth shake. The humiliation Sasuke suffered is being paid back with interest and blood right now. The monster rises furiously and tries to punch Boruto's face with all his remaining strength. But the hero does not even move and uses the power of attraction and repulsion to paralyze the enemy in midair. You watch the god of destruction floating helpless while the Supreme Rinnegan glows with a deadly intensity. Boruto extends his right hand and creates a lightning blade that mixes the Chidori with the Karma's chakra. The sound of 1,000 birds echoes again, but now it sounds like the cry of a vengeful deity. The electric blade pierces the Otsutsuki's stomach, and the heat of the attack starts to char his cells. The villain spits out a massive amount of dark blood, and realizes that his immortality is truly failing. You hold your breath because the victory that seemed impossible is right before your eyes now. But Boruto shows absolutely no joy, and his face still looks like that of a soulless killer. The hatred over losing his master consumed everything left of humanity inside the boy. The enemy uses his last resort and tries to transfer his own soul inside Boruto's body. He projects a spiritual karma mark toward the young boy's forehead to attempt a desperate possession. But the Supreme Rinnegan emits a mental shockwave that slams the monster's projection right back. You see the Otsutsuki's soul get torn in half by the ocular force, and his despair is absolute. The god of the ninja underworld just found out he met someone way more monstrous than him. Boruto lifts his left hand high and begins to pull the debris of Konoha into the sky. He uses Chibaku Tensei to create a massive sphere of rock that will bury the villain alive. The Otsutsuki is pulled into the center of that massive rock, and his bones keep getting crushed by the pressure. You feel the magnitude of this power and realize that Boruto reached the absolute peak of the ninja world. No one on the planet stands a single chance against this kid, modified by hatred. The giant sphere closes completely, and Boruto concentrates his electric chakra to explode the artificial satellite. The flash of the detonation lights up the gray sky and reduces the monster's body to ashes that vanish in the wind. Silence finally returns to the battlefield, and you think the nightmare is over for good. But the hero drops to his knees next to Sasuke's body, and the Rinnegan does not stop glowing. The divine power keeps rising, and Boruto's body begins to undergo a bizarre mutation. The dark marks of the karma begin to climb up his neck and cover the left side of his face. The boy's original blue eye changes color and turns completely white like that of a pure Otsutsuki. You realize with terror that the Supreme Rinnegan accelerated the resurrection process that was frozen inside his body. The hero did not just defeat the monster from the earth, but he activated his own end inside himself. Boruto's mind begins to fade away while a new evil consciousness takes control. The boy stands up slowly, and his posture is no longer that of a ninja protecting Konoha. He looks at his own hands and gives a cold laugh that makes your blood run cold for real. The karma and the Supreme Rinnegan fused together to create something the world should have never known. He looks at the deserted horizon and prepares a mass destruction jutsu aimed at the rest of the planet. And you find out that the true final villain of the story was just born from the ashes of Sasuke's sacrifice. The destructive energy in Boruto's hand grows so much that it cracks the space around his possessed body. Momoshiki's spirit is laughing out loud inside the boy's mind and savoring the perfect victory. You see the entire planet in real danger because there is no hero left alive to stop this apocalypse. But Boruto's consciousness was not completely wiped out, and it awakens in the depths of that darkness. The hero refuses to become the destroyer of the world he swore to protect with his life. A brutal mental battle begins to take place while the young ninja's body trembles in the middle of the ruins. You notice that his right arm tries to cancel the attack, but the left side forces the destruction. Boruto uses the Supreme Rinnegan to look deep into his own soul and face the demon head-on. Momoshiki's hatred is giant, but the boy's love for his dead family creates an insurmountable barrier. It is a psychological duel where every single second consumes whatever life he has left. The young man realizes there is no way to expel the parasite and makes the hardest decision of his journey. He uses the attraction power of Sasuke's eye to pull the last broken kunai from the ground. You hold your breath because you understand the desperate plan going through our protagonist's head. He is not going to let the monster win and prefers to vanish from the map along with the threat. Sasuke's sacrifice taught him that true peace demands a bloody price. Boruto channels all the remaining electric chakra into the tip of that worn-out metal blade. Momoshiki notices the danger and tries to paralyze the boy's movements with all his spiritual strength. But the hero lets out a war cry that echoes across the entire continent and breaks the villain's resistance. He points the weapon straight at his own chest, right where his heart is, and pushes with everything. The metal pierces the tissue and warm blood splatters over the dry earth of Konoha. A blinding white flash explodes from Boruto's body and wraps the entire battlefield in silence. The karma mark begins to crack like broken glass, and the pieces vanish into the air like dust. Momoshiki's spirit lets out one last howl of extreme agony while being disintegrated forever from existence. The villain's plan failed because Boruto destroyed the vessel before the transformation could be complete. You watch the end of the Otsutsuki bloodline happen in the most painful and epic way possible. The hero drops to his knees on the ground, and the Supreme Rinnegan begins to lose its signature purple glow. The chest wound is lethal, but the energy from Sasuke's eye performs one last medical miracle. It consumes the boy's entire alien lineage to heal the tear in his heart and close the wound. The process is painful and tears away every single drop of special power Boruto kept in his body. When the light fades, you see only a regular young human bleeding in the middle of nowhere. He lies on his back on the ground and looks up at the sky, which is finally turning blue again. Boruto lost his karma and lost the divine eye, but he managed to save the future of all humanity. The ninja world is safe now because there are no more gods or cursed marks left to spread chaos. Sasuke's sacrifice bore fruit, and his pupil finished the mission as the greatest anonymous hero. The silence of true peace settles in and closes this journey for good. Boruto closes his only good eye and gives a light smile knowing he fulfilled his sacred duty. The wind blows the ashes of Konoha and erases the last traces of that hellish war that nobody will ever forget. The story of the boy who lost everything to save the world ends right here without leaving any loose ends. If you enjoyed this epic ending, leave your like and subscribe here to the channel. There are more insane stories waiting for you in the next video, and see you next time.